Good evening, everybody. So good to see you here. Thank you for coming out tonight for a very happy occasion. Gary Carton has revived the Liars Bench just particularly to honor our dear friend Ann Woodford. So I can walk around. Yeah, and of course, as you all know, has been working on this wonderful book that I can tell you, certainly as a history museum professional, I have been looking forward to with great anticipation for 7 long years. And it's done, and it's published, and you can get your very own copy tonight. So we're absolutely thrilled about that. We're going to have a great night celebrating this wonderful book, and of course celebrating our friend Gary and the Liars Bench. And I wanted to take just a minute and tell you what's going on with the Mountain Heritage Center. Did I introduce myself? Sorry about that. I am Pam Meister, and I'm the interim director and curator of the Mountain Heritage Center. And as you know, the bottom of this building was our home for 36 years, and it still is partially our home. We still have the auditorium, but we have moved our offices and our exhibits over to Hunter Library. And we would love for you to come visit us over there, although we do have to confess that parking is difficult. But if you can find a place to park, and I recommend parking by the ATM machine or Tux and walking the block down the street. But we are the very first thing that you come to in the library. You turn the corner on the plaza, that very first door is our front door. And we are there Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And if you happen to be around, we would love to see you. We're going to have a special holiday open house in early December on weekends and different hours, and show you all the parts where the Mountain Heritage Center is now. I know it's a little confusing, but I swear the story has a good ending. But like I said, we still have the lot, we still have the auditorium here. Our collections actually have an expanded storage area in this building, in sort of the secret center of this building. But we are very happy about that because it means we can collect more things, and we love to do that. Then we have our new exhibit gallery on the ground floor of Hunter Library, and we have offices and a second gallery. It's like a lobby gallery on the second floor of Hunter Library. And plus we have exhibits all over the place at Silva Public Library, and in Asheville, and in Old Fort right now. So we are expanding all over the place. But I know there's been a lot of talk about what's going on with the Mountain Heritage Center, and are they going to last? And oh yes, we are absolutely going to last. And also I wanted to share some really great news with you, which I just found out. The North Carolina Folklore Society is having its annual meeting right here in Cullowhee in early October, and they annually give awards for people who are involved in the preservation of folklore and the preservation of cultural traditions. And I found out today, and they didn't say it was a secret, so I'm going to tell you that the Mountain Heritage Center is going to receive one of their Community Tradition Awards. And we are incredibly honored. And so we are going strong, and they have a wonderful annual meeting. A lot of it is open to the public. And the Gary Carton is going to be performing on Friday night. He knows it, he just signed the contract. Across the street at NCAT, the North Carolina Center for the Advancement of Teaching. And that will be Friday, October the 9th at 8 o'clock in their little auditorium. So if you're hungry to have a little more Gary, that's a place that you can do. And then there will be presentations that are open to the public on Saturday afternoon. Tom Belt will be speaking as the keynote speaker, and then there'll be an award ceremony and reception afterwards. And again, we would love it if any of you would like to join us. That's all over at NCAT. And then finally, Gary hasn't shared when he wants to do his next Liars Bench here, but I feel sure we will have one sometime, huh, Gary?
Yeah.
But we do have another program. Yeah, it's always good, you know, with his back turned, I can get him to say yes. But we have another program here on October 29th. Phil Jameson, who I think many of you know as an accomplished square dance caller, flat-foot dancer, and teacher of Appalachian studies, particularly music and dance, has written a book of his own, and he will be presenting his book and doing a little dance demonstration for us on Thursday, October 29th. As always, 7 o'clock, free and open to the public, and we hope you join us. So I promised I wouldn't go on and on, so that's it for right now. Thank you so much for coming out, and Gary, would you like to start us off with the show? I'm also the other teacher.
Okay, in case you don't know, I'm Gary Carden. I'm a storyteller, and we've been holding the Liars Bench here for about 3 years now. I guess we founded it about 4 years ago, and I want to talk a little bit about it. It's not going to be enough to bother you, I don't think. But when we first started it, it was just fun. That's all we wanted to do, and so they agreed to let us come in here every Thursday, third Thursday of every month. And we came in here and we invited storytellers and musicians to come in here. And we just had a great time for an hour and a half, 2 hours. It was a little while before we realized that we had something more important than just having a good time. But we had poets, we had storytellers, we had musicians, we even had artists. We gave a couple of plays, and we never charged, except a couple of times we got so desperate we had to, and took up money so that we could at least pay the performer's mileage home. But in that time, we realized that maybe we had an opportunity to do something significant, and that was to preserve and promote Appalachian culture. Musicians, poets, writers, people who did marvelous things and did it within our culture. And so we started picking people. And we had Cherokee programs, so we had Osley Sanook, did a program on him, and marvelous chief that was a professional wrestler who attracted a lot of attention when a bridge fell in '54, I think it was. And he picked it up. It was one of those swinging bridges, and let him get the victims out from under it. Made him famous. We did a program on Jack Lambert, who was hanged in Bryson City. Bayless Henderson, who was hanged in Webster. Professor Monroe, you know. We did about 30 programs like that. And in the process of doing those, we stumbled on something that changed us a whole lot, and I'm not going to talk about a whole lot about it because I don't know what to say, but it was the County Tunnel. We did a program on the County Tunnel, and it turned into something that we didn't expect. Dave Waldrop went with me, and we went down there, and we were going to do the usual. We were going to do a program about our folklore and the stories that they told about 19 prisoners that drowned in that river down there. But in the process and doing research, we got a shock or two. We discovered that they drowned because they had shackles and chains on. They couldn't get out of the river. We discovered that they were not prisoners in the normal sense of the word. The majority of them hadn't even done anything. why were they there? And then I did a little research and we discovered that there was an agreement between the prisons and the trained people. It was like slavery again. You send your prisoners and we will build a railroad. And so we had a railroad that was built from Mateo to Murphy, a tremendous number of innocent people. A lot of them young boys, 17, 18, 19 years old, that were picked up, put in jail. Next thing they knew, they were on the chain gang. And that's what was down here in Dillsboro. What we followed out. I won't go into detail about this. I'd like to, because I love to talk about it. But we discovered that they were not buried on top of the tunnel, which is a story that we'd always heard. They were buried on the hillside behind a woman's house that we talked to, and she sent somebody to show us and took us up there, and we found the graves, and they had been buried in 3 trenches, just dug 3 trenches and dumped their bodies in, covered them up and gone. And then I started writing a play, and it almost killed me. I'm not going to talk about it. I never have finished it. It's about 80% done. I don't know whether I ever will finish it. But that slowed us down a whole lot. Suddenly the Liars Bench was having trouble getting by, paying its bills, and I was in bad health on top of all of that. But I'm going to tie all this together right now by tying that part. Early on, I asked William Ritter to do me a song about those prisoners, the ones that drowned, and the fact that they were buried up there on that hillside. And he did a song that would have been a part of the play, and still will be a part of the play if he ever do it. But it's called Shackles and Chains, and I'm going to go right straight to that. William, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Brought his own chain.
I'm a little under the weather, you'll have to excuse me. But here's a song. And last time I did it, we did it just like this. Can you hear it? Can you hear it? It's the clank and the rattle of the chain. 19 men done laid to rest, restless, restless. Can you hear it? Can you hear it? The water comes weeping down, down. Tears still fall from the roof of the tunnel where 19 men were drowned. The tears fall like rain, fall like blood, and leave the stain, the name. 19 men, you can hear their cries in the howling rain. Can you hear it? Can you hear it? The songs of the working dead, still all the songs from the heart of the mountain, painting our progress red. The tears fall like rain, fall like blood, and leave the same name. 19 men, you can hear their cries in the howling rain. Can you hear it? Can you hear it? The clink of the steel down deep, deep. 19 men dragged down together, shackled forever to sleep. The tears fall like rain, they fall like blood, and leave the stains, the names. 19 men, you can hear their cries in the howling. Can you hear it? Can you hear it? The water comes weeping down, down. Tears still fall from the roof of the tunnel where 19 men were drowned. hardly clean chain last night. Then we got a real thing.
William will be back later because he's very much a part of Ann's program. And Ann has treatment of this incident, Valley Tunnel, is in her book, is a significant part of the book. Let me mention here also, that little basket sitting over there on the stage, we're going to pass that. And we'll do it at intermission, just before you get away, because sometimes people forget to come back. Let me say this in relation to that, and then I'm through talking. What money we get there will be the seed money for another program. Or who knows, maybe there's another Ann Miller Woodford out there with an unpublished book, and maybe there's a talented musician or a band or somebody, and the Liars Bench can sponsor them, and we can once more bring you here to this room and showcase them. If we have the money to turn the lights on, pay people to perform for us, make the show possible. I'd like to go now directly to the gentleman I'm going to introduce, Dr. Curtis Wood. Would you please come out? I'm going to sit down. From there, I think the rest of the night will be Ann's program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here, part of this. I began to hear about Ann's book last time I met her, and I came to understand that she has long been working on it at that point. So it's a great day with witness to it. When I began myself to study Appalachian history, one of the first books I remember reading was a book about Cherokee history by John Finger. It's a little off our subject tonight, but what I learned in that book right up front was something I needed to get right from the start. John Finger made the straightforward remark that Southern Appalachia is a triracial society. And as a relatively new person here, I might have missed that if I had not had my attention drawn forcefully to it. From the time of early settlement, the people of Southern Appalachia were the native Cherokee, people of European origin that I was most familiar with and that I had begun to study, and African Americans. The latter were here from the beginning of what we now call Appalachian Society. And they have been here throughout. But as John Enscombe tells us in his introduction to Ann's book, African Americans have been invisible to the outside world here in Appalachia. They have rarely been recognized in the study of the region. The first book on Black Appalachians was published in 1985, and it was a book of that title, Black Appalachians. The editors talked about the phenomena of black invisibility, and they described African Americans as a neglected minority within a neglected minority, referring to white Appalachians, which had certainly been the case. So it's sort of a double bind for African Americans. I hope you, when you begin to read Ann's book, I hope you will read John Enscombe's introduction. He's a preeminent scholar of Appalachia. He's written books on slavery and race. He's a native North Carolinian who teaches at the University of Georgia. His short piece is followed by another very eminent scholar, Pat Beaver at Appalachian State University. And together what those two pieces do is they set the stage, create a context of what Ann has given us in this book. Let me say that only very recently has the condition of black invisibility been addressed, and it's what is new is the African American community has begun to speak for itself, to tell its own stories. Interestingly to me, the same thing began to happen only about 40 years ago for White Mountain people, when they began, after a long period of relative invisibility, they began to tell their stories, write their own history, rather than leave it to outsiders to do it for them. And the same is now begun to happen with African Americans in Appalachia. The term Appalachians, how many of you have heard that term, Appalachian? It's a relatively new term referring to Appalachian people with African ancestry. That's going to come into our conversation about the mountain past. This is a very good and necessary thing. Only a decade ago, Victoria Casey McDonald began to write the history of African Americans in Jackson County. Victoria passed away recently, but she left a priceless body of writings on the heritage that she lived and loved. And I'm sure many of you knew her. Gary has told you about his project on the Cowie Tunnel disaster. Gary has invited African American voices to guide and inform his work and participate with him as he has worked, put that story together in a way that it feels right for the memory of the men who died there. Some of you may have heard Victoria sing gospel songs here on this stage as part of a workshop production of the play that Gary calls Tuckasegee Rising. There's also a biracial group in Haywood County at the Pigeon River Center collecting oral history of their community. More recently, there's an interesting development, and that is that NAACP chapters have been formed to serve Haywood and Jackson and Swain and Macon counties. And those organizations are producing important connections and conversations with white and black and Latino residents of our communities. And I think that is really part of this whole discovery and conversation. Now we have Ann Woodford's great compilation of the history of communities and churches, biographies of many individuals, and countless stories and photographs of the African American people of far western North Carolina. You will probably find any number of people that you know in her book. I think if you haven't looked at it yet, you will be surprised. And I'm very happy to find that it has a very comprehensive index. Indexes are sometimes just kind of passed over in local history collections, but there it is, and you can look people up. Ann was born in Andrews in Cherokee County and attended a one-room, one-teacher segregated elementary school there. She graduated with honors from a girls' boarding school in Asheville, and then from Ohio University. She came home to live and work in Cherokee County. She is the founder of One Dozen Who Care Incorporated, an African American women-led community development organization, of which this book is a project. She is an artist, and you will find reproductions of quite a few of her paintings in the book. She's a business person and a community leader. That just begins to sort of show the tip of the iceberg. I hope you will get to know her if you do not already. I suspect many of you do. The thing about Ann, if you meet her, you're well on your way to being a friend. She has made her life in western North Carolina into quite an adventure. I can't do justice to this book here and now. It's so new, and I don't actually have my own copy yet. And there's so much in it to discover. but I will quote what John Insco says about her book. And these are the words of John Insco. By capturing the collective voices of those who came of age in these communities and whose sense of self and society is integrally tied to the social and cultural bonds provided by those communities, Woodford and her colleagues have much enriched our understanding of what Appalachian heritage means and how much richer and more varied it comes to be when viewed in such multicolored hues. Please welcome Ann Miller Woodford.
Thank you. This is a work in progress. So I hope that you will give me feedback on this evening because thank you, Pam, for mentioning that there is the North Carolina Folk Life event. I will be a presenter there also. And I will be a presenter at the Western North Carolina African Americans Conference at UNCA. And we'll just keep putting that out for everybody here. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Gary, for putting this program together. We thank you very much. And Dave, thank you very much for everything. All getting the word out, doing everything about this program. Thank you so very much. Pam's going to work on the PowerPoint for me because I'm not used to working back and forth from the PowerPoint, but we're going to have a good time with it. I appreciate the choir, the combined choirs from Liberty Baptist Church. Thank you all for coming. Looking forward to hearing you because it's real exciting to get this kind of gospel singing. To start, I think we'll just move one slide and let's see what's up there. I forgot to bring my printed out version of my slides. I am on the board of the Liars Bench, and I was really pleased when I heard that Gary was writing this story of Tears in the Rain. Curtis, thank you for that great introduction, and a lot of what he has already told you, I won't repeat now. It was perfect. Thank you so much. You can't really talk about a book like this, a 650-page book, without all the people that participated and shared. And I'm really, really grateful that I had John Insco, an outstanding historian. Pat Beaver has been a friend for a long time, and David Rose also over at the folk school, John C. Campbell Folk School. So they've all shared their expertise with me. I wasn't a historian, but I am now. We'll move, well, before we move, you'll see the list of people who are participating in this program. And unfortunately, Barbara McCrae, who is just an excellent friend to me, she has been sick for a while. She's now healed, but unfortunately her father now is sick. So that's the reason she's not here. And Curtis mentioned the index. We talked about, I said, we need a good index, but we have no idea how hard it is to put an index together like that. So Barbara was really patient and caring. Pam. Back in 1998, 1997, we formed One Dozen Who Care, and we called the program that we first did was a gospel singing, and an event that was filmed. We have like 14 hours of film in the can, waiting to make a film behind all of this. We interviewed the elders of the community at the Walker Inn of Old Valley Town in Andrews. So this book comes out of that, which we promised 17 years ago. So you can see we believe in following through. And this is One Dozen Who Care. And please, One Dozen Who Care members, stand up or raise your hand up really well so people can see who you are. Thank you for coming. And I see Mary Sue will hold her hand up over there. So Eleanor, didn't hold your hand up, I didn't see that, so if I'm missing somebody, please forgive me. Next. What happened was that I watched and I looked around and I saw many, many older people passing away and taking all their life stories with them. And the younger people were not paying attention, or they forget themselves what the stories were like. So my mom and dad, I looked at them, and my mom was a wonderful singer, and my daddy just worked, and he loved telling stories. And now that he's passed away, both of them have passed away, but now that he's passed away, people are writing to me on Facebook and everywhere saying that smile that was on his face was just incredible. They talk about him now as if he's still right here. One dozen who care and I got our heads together, and we decided that we would follow through on our promise. And this book is a part of that promise. One Dozen is a community development organization, and what we work for is to build bridges between the races, to develop and strengthen leadership and entrepreneurship, and preserve African American culture and history. And we have that library collection at the Andrews Public Library that has African American books, and it's the only one in the area that has an African American book collection. These are 5 of the founding members of One Dozen Who Care, and you can see the faces and the joy that we all had together. We were going to really make something happen in this world, and we really are proud that we have. And that's another picture of board members, and we thank the ones that are here now. You can see yourself up here. Next. Programs that we've had, we have a youth program, and we are working toward having that program one more time. We had it, and we don't have it right now, but Brian Gaddy, where are you in this audience? Right back there is someone we're so proud of. He's one of our 10-10-10 youth. And he came because he really is this is a special young man. He has not only gone through, he and I were talking, he was too young to be in the 10-10-10 program because they had to be 10 years old. But Brian was, what were you, 7?
Yeah, I was young.
You're real young. Listen to that voice, yeah, I was young. Okay. Brian was little and young, and he and DJ Boykin were both young, too young to be in the program, but we asked them to be mascots because they were so interested. And they both were the greatest leaders in that program. And Brian has come back and presented for us to other young people. And he goes to Western Carolina University. And what's your major?
Middle grades math education.
Thank you. We're really proud of you, Brian.
Thank you.
David Goldhagen, many people that had businesses and experiences they could offer to our youth. In the 10 kids, the 10 projects in 10 months, supported us along the way. And David Goldhagen at the Goldhagen Glass Studio let the youth come in and make blow glass, to actually blow glass. So there's the glory hole over there on that one. We took the kids and gave them experiences, all kinds of experiences they may not have had before. And we received letters back from them saying that being African American kids in this region, you never saw any African American businesses, professionals, lawyers, doctors, whatever at that time. So we took them out so they could make sure that they did meet people that could push them along, encourage them, and uplift them. This is Joyce, that's okay, Joyce Keller Forest was up there, and down here was the Alex Haley Park in Knoxville. Now, this is my vision. I want to see the young people, I want to see them sitting by older people, listening to the stories, taking them in and remembering them and passing them on. And so they'll tell them how they got over. especially if it's grandparents. This is what we really want them to be with their grandparents. So this song, how I got over, oh my Lord, and my soul looks back and wonders how I got over. Well, I've been viewed, and I've been scorned, and I've been talked about as sure as you're born, and my soul looks back and wonders how I got over. Jordan River was chilly and cold. You chilled my body, but not my soul. And my soul looked back and wondered how I got over. That song is a part of what we want to do, of collecting these kinds of songs, sung by our people right in this area. That song, you can see, is about getting out of slavery, getting out of depression and all the different problems that people have. The Jordan River has always meant getting out of slavery and moving to a place where they could be free. So it might have been rough to get there, but they moved on. And this is what I'm so proud of to see, is that older people have this, but they don't write it down. We, African Americans, are an oral tradition society. And so this is one. If I start singing, y'all can sing with me, gladly. I want to say that you can't tell the story of African Americans in America without slavery. It wasn't a good situation for anybody, really. Even the slave owners it wasn't good for them either. But they didn't know that. They got themselves into a lot of problems by using slaves, so when the time came they couldn't have slaves anymore, they lost everything. And so slavery is a part of what has happened all around us, but in this region, it appears to me from the study that I've had that slaves were not mistreated like we see in the movies. Now, it doesn't mean that, you want to be a slave. Nobody wants to be a slave, but they were not, we don't hear of lynchings of black people in this area. And if you know of it, please tell me, because I want the full history. I don't want to just put something down that looks like it's rosy and all that. It's not rosy, it wasn't rosy. But in Andrews, and I speak more of that because that's where my daddy told me the stories about. There was even a woman in Andrews who told the people, I will not be a slave. I don't know where she came from, but a white lady who was a teacher in the Andrews school and Daddy both knew that story from passing it down. 4 people had passed it down. And she said, I won't be a slave. And she lived in a cave back off Stewart Road in Andrews. According to what both this lady, the teacher, Miss McGuire, her name was Polly McGuire, Miss McGuire and my dad, whose daddy passed on stories to him, said she lived in a cave and she would work for the people, but she said, I won't be a slave. There was also in Andrews on the McGuire's, Miss McGuire's farm was the Stewart farm. Her family was Stewarts. And they had a slave, a man, who it was just amazing. Every Friday at noon, he got off and walked over to Graham County to be with his wife over the weekend. And he came back on Monday morning by noon to his work, and he was a slave. And you don't hear of that when you're looking at these movies and all of the deep South, as we call it. So it's just interesting stories that have been told to me that I'm trying to pass on. And you'll see those stories in the book. My grandfather, this is my grandfather, his name is William Cleve Miller. There was an ethnic cleansing in Forsyth County in Georgia. They lived in Cumming, Georgia, and they decided they were no longer going to let blacks stay there because there's always been this thing of a black man raped a white girl. That was the way they would get to you and get to the black people in the communities. And so they said that happened, and there's newspaper articles in the Atlanta Journal back all the way back, I think it's Atlanta, was it called the Constitution before, or now, it's Atlanta Journal-Constitution, I think. The articles are there to show what happened at that time. And my grandfather and his family lived down there in that county, around in those little communities. And he tells that they decided they were going to get rid of all the black people. And therefore, they came in the evening when the ladies, some of them, it's not all, but some, the table was set, the food was ready, they had their cow in the barn, they had their pigs in the pen, they just came in and moved them out. Told them they would kill them if they came back. Sat down at the table and ate their nice hot dinner. Grandpa and his mother moved to Marietta, Georgia for a little while, where they had some relatives. And then after that, they moved to Blue Ridge. Well, Grandpa started to see that the people in this closer area around here were a little bit nicer to deal with. He moved up to Andrews, or he visited Andrews, and he found a piece of land, and he built the first house in an area in Andrews where we still call the black community, called Happy Top. He built the first house there and got that community started. And in the beginning, Happy Top, which was named by his cousin, his cousin, William Bowens, was just the black community, because people always want to separate themselves, right? But now people are so happy with the name Happy Top that it goes all the way down to the edge of town. They don't want to take it into town because we still want Andrews, right? So this is it, the next one. The next house that was built, this lady's parents built the next house right down, just very close to my grandpa's house. The other thing I was going to tell you about is that in Andrews, Daddy used to take me around for a ride, and we traveled all around the area. And blacks lived in all kinds of places. It was like we are now. You can live where you want to live. And he showed me where the different ones lived, and he knew them. They used to walk to their houses and those kinds of things. Eat food at those houses, walk through the woods, and all of that. So it's basically been a wonderful place to live. And I have a lot more I could say, but I don't want to keep on the one thing. But to move on a little bit more here, these people, this lady and her husband just lived down the street from us. This man worked for the Reese Motor Company in town. So the blacks were working all over town. You would have, nothing like it is now, where you hardly ever see an African American in a place working or even visiting most of the time. But they were all over the place working. One of the street, the person in charge of maintenance of the street was a black man. And down in Murphy, the man was completely in charge of a crew down in Murphy, a black man down there. And his name passes through my mind right now, but Neely, I think their names were. And I don't have everything in this slideshow, but I will have it again, and I hope that you all will be willing to come and hear it again when I do some more presentations. This is my grandmother, Nora Howell. Nora, she was from Bryson City. So when Grandpa came and built his house in Andrews, he built the house and he moved his mother up to Andrews. His mother was there, and he decided he went off to join the Army. So he went to the World War I, and one of the things Grandpa said, and it hurt me so bad to think of it like this, because, you know, when you really want to see something good happen, and you're excited about it, and you just, you know, oh, you're all thrilled, and then you go and it's no good. It hurts you worse than if you had said, oh, I won't be anything in the first place, I'll go just to be there, right? So Grandpa said, when he was leaving, and the other groups of men, all the black men that left with him, the white women and men, they were patting them on the back and they were hugging them, and they said, when you get back from the war, things are going to be equal, everything is going to be great, thank you for serving your country. Well, when he got back, you know the story. So So Grandpa was in the engineering company in the Army, so when he came back, he did get a job with Colonel, his name went through my mind too, but he built roads all around Andrews. I told people I'm gonna have to study my own book. But Grandma, he went to Bryson City and he met Grandma. And that's Grandma's mother over there holding my cousin, as you see the names and everything. And that's Grandpa up there, Grandpa Howell. That was a couple. They were a couple. And Grandma, it was one of their children. They had a bunch of them, a lot of children. They lived in what was in Swain County, what was called Governor's Island. And they had 2 houses to burn down. And I was thinking about that. They were at church and one of their houses burned down. He was a strong deacon in the church and everything. The black community has always rallied around each other in church. That's where they could meet. That's where they could talk. That's where they could plan their lives safely. So Grandpa, they were at church and their house burned down. We don't know what the reason was why they lost everything, but they lost everything. But he built it back. He was just one of those people, and he had a great name in Swain County. Next. The 3 that stayed in Andrews after they grew up were my Uncle T.D., who lived with his parents until he got sick and died. He went to the Veterans Hospital. He was with the CC camp. Somebody tell me what CC camp was. Conservation Corps. The Conservation Corps. And I think that's how he got into the Veterans Hospital, because I'm not sure how that works yet. I'll find out though. My Aunt Pauline is the only one living now of these 3 that stayed in Andrews, and that's my dad over there. My Aunt Pauline is in the nursing home in Valley View in Andrews, and still clear as she can be in her mind. Very cantankerous, but she's clear in her mind. Next. This is Grandpa, and this is the cousin that named Happy Top. His name was William Bowens, and they were forced out of Georgia with the ethnic cleansing that I just talked about. Next. William was known as an entrepreneur. I mean, we call it entrepreneur now, but he was a businessman. He was also known as a jack-leg preacher and a jack of all trades, and he is the one that named Happy Top. Where the Methodist Church is in downtown Andrews right now is where he had his shop on that corner, Chestnut and Main. And he did alterations and cleaning people's clothes and ironing shirts, whatever that he did. He had his company called the Pressing Club. And that's the only black business that's been in Andrews until recently. And I think the next slide will show this. This is Micah's Soul and Seafood Restaurant, downtown Andrews right now. This was her opening event. And she was one who, as I was, we had to leave home to go to school to get our education. We had no school for us. I was valedictorian of my class from 8th grade because I was the only person in the grade from 2nd to 8th. The one thing that was good about that little one-room, one-teacher, all-black school was that the teacher had to still come to me 5 times a day. I had to be prepared, and Mama and Daddy were not going to accept anything but being prepared. But all day long, when I finished one class, I would do the homework and finish that homework at school. Maybe I had a little to do from that last class of the day, but most of the time I didn't. I would go home and they would allow me to paint, and Mama would let me stay up all into the night painting because she knew that I loved to do my artwork. So Micah's is down on Main Street right now, and we're really proud of Ruth Boone. That's her, a young woman over there. But she came home with this vision to open up her own restaurant. Work world. In the book, there's talk about the work world. There's all kinds of different different work that people did. My dad loved, he loved work. Daddy loved to work. Not too many people that I know just can't wait to get up in the morning and go work. But Daddy was up before dark. In the wintertime, he would get up and build a fire so that we would be warm when we got up. We had no problems because of that. He never made us work on the farm. His daddy never made his girls work. He had 3 girls. And he didn't believe that girls should work outside. They should do housework and help their mother if anything. And Daddy was the same way. So I never had to go. So you know how kids are. Because I didn't have to, I thought it was great to go to the field and hoe corn. My dad worked in this place called the tannery. And, oh, you have a tannery here. The tannery, what's that? Blow the tannery whistle. Gary's show, his program that he does on Blow the Tannery Whistle. This is very interesting. We are, as you can see, this little girl, she's now about 77 or 78 years old. But this is her first day of school. And she lived just right across the road from school. So she could just walk right like far as from here to Pam to get to her classes. Our little school, and you'll see, I think there's a picture of it in here somewhere. I'd like you to see what I say here because this is true whether you're white, Native American, or African American. We are mountain people. Mountain people we find a way to sort of work together and love each other. And we know that there are prejudiced people and folks that are, hate other races and all that. We know that. But in general, we grew up together, we work together, and we play together. And so that's how we are in this little area. And I haven't found a whole lot in my research that said things were a whole lot different from that. And I do have some, so when you read the book, you can check that out in the segregation section especially. Next one. Now here was the school. If you can look it's around, this looks like a white line going down at the back there. When Daddy went to school, there were 30 or 40 kids at a time in the school. When I went there, we had no more than 20 ever. But they built on a little bit more when they had less kids. When I went to school, it was the year that the tannery shut down, or it had just shut down maybe the year before, and all the people had to migrate north. So there was that great movement to the north that took place because there was no work. The tannery was the work for the people, and the community was built on the tannery. And so that little school is where we went, and our playground, our ball field was about the size of this stage. There was a white teacher that lived across the road and across the little patch that lived down there. And when this one young man would he'd try to bunt the ball, but he was wrong. So he'd hit it and it would go over in her yard. She didn't mind if we climbed over and got our ball, and she told Daddy to tell us, get your ball, don't worry about it. Because she could see that we didn't really have any place to play. We had 2 seesaws and 2 basketball goals that were so close together, it wasn't a real basketball game at all. So when they integrated the schools, and this tall guy, that is the one in the back there, when he went to school, they said, oh, we got us a basketball player. He didn't know how to play. It was their fault. So these are just pictures. We can move on. And Curtis, how am I doing with time? Okay. Teachers. I don't have all the teachers up here, but the one in the middle was my favorite teacher of all times because she loved art. She cared about me and my artwork, and what she did was send my art to contests and to the Scholastic Art Awards on her own, out of her own pocket, which is what many teachers do things today. But back then, if she got $50 a month for a salary, and she had to live in one of the black homes in the community because there was no place for her to stay while she was down there. She was from Asheville. And so she had to leave her home in Asheville, that she did own a home in Asheville. She had to leave to come down there and stay in somebody's back room without houses to go to, the tub, you had to heat your water to take a bath in a zinc tub. I'm amazed when I think of what these teachers did. And over there is Miss Ruby McDowell. She was from Silva. And of course, you know, we're proud. We see two of the teachers here tonight, Mary Sue Casey and Marge Herbert. They're here, and I thank you all for being teachers. It's such a blessing to know people that care that way. And I thank you. And Shirley Parks is the first, somebody tell me what Shirley does. Anybody know? She's the principal of, I meant to say, what school is it? Do you remember?
Christina Day.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. And Miss Smith, Miss Cirilla Smith, well, she lived to be 100, didn't she?
96.
96. That's Marge's mother. Marge, I guess she was a great influence on you, huh?
Yes.
To get you to teach. And we'll have a lot of stories about Marge's father, who was the preeminent preacher, moderator of our Baptist Association for many, many, many years. And he was the one that everybody wanted to see on that Sunday when we have our annual conference. Everybody, the church would be packed and people standing outside to hear this man speak. And it was funny because Grandpa said he used to, when he was really a young man, he used to sit with him and he would preach his sermons to him and he would help him to read and help him to understand what he thought the Bible was saying. And it gave great conversations. Next. Oh, Miss Cirilla Smith is her name. And these two have passed away, and Victoria Arvella Casey McDonald she was going to help me with this book. We had a vision to be together like this on the stage talking about it and everything, and all the history that she knew. And my Aunt Margaret married my dad's youngest brother, and she came down when she was just fresh out of college, and she was like 90 pounds, and she had these big guys, 8th graders, they were so big, and she said she was scared, but Grandpa Cleve helped her.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. He told her how to deal with people. He told her how she should deal with some of the families, because sometimes you really need to know what the family is like in these places, especially because we're real clannish around here, aren't we? Okay, next. The churches. I tried to visit, I took all these pictures, I tried to visit except that one over there of the church in Franklin called New Bethel now. I grew up in Franklin, didn't grow up there, I grew up in Andrews, but I visited my grandparents there for at least 2 weeks, sometimes a month, every summer, until I went away to school. And so I went to what was called Bethlehem Baptist Church at that time, and they've changed it now to New Bethel. But these churches are all the different ones. This one was called Mays Chapel AME Zion Church, this one right here. Before now it is, it's the Holiness Church. What's the name?
God's Holy
Thank you, God's Holy Tabernacle. And the two little pictures, Ray's Chapel down there, I think there's something else about Ray's Chapel further on, is they're no longer used for churches, and one right above it. But I know that we have Lynn, this is her church, Jones, down here, Jones Chapel. Jones Temple. I always say chapel, I hope I didn't write it. Did I write chapel in the book? Jones Temple. Jones Temple AME Zion Church. And Pat Washington, let's see, hers is second row, the third one over right here. And it is the Church of God in Christ, and it's called Burgess Chapel. Right, Chapel?
Right.
Right, okay. And her husband Ed is back there with her, and we're really proud of Ed too, because as an aside, Ed was the director at the Job Corps over in Franklin for how many years?
15.
15 years, all right. So you can see the churches, and there's a lot about them in the book. Go ahead to the next one. Thank you. My little church, and all of that information is about the history. I'll say this about the little church. We call these white and black churches, don't we? Well, there's a white church in Andrews that's now called Valley River, Back in the day, back just after slavery and everything, and they were pulled together, they ended up having a black deacon. He was really somebody special because he helped build the school and the church as a carpenter. And these are my pastors, my pastor and the minister of my church. Can move on right now. These are the Sweats, Reverend and Reverend Sweat. And just some other churches. Fort Henry has Reverend Harper, and I don't have them all in there. You can move on to that. Fort Henry is a Baptist church in Hayesville, and this is Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church in Murphy, and their pastor up there. And some of you have heard Roscoe Hall sing, and he was a wonderful singer. Next one. Now, I meant to take out, this was the oldest picture found of a preacher, but this is the oldest one. Now, I think we should take a little break and hear the most wonderful gospel singing that we can get. So, we're not going to leave. We're just going to ask you all to come up and sing, please. Now, their church is Liberty, and they might be going to talk about it. Are you going to talk about what your church, you're going to give a little history on your church? Okay. It was called Scott's Liberty Baptist Church. And what we need to know about our churches is that many of them were assisted, black people who started these churches were assisted by white people who really helped them to develop their churches and organize and all that.
We are here to support Andrew for her hard work and for the book that she took time to put out. And we are not professionals, but we love the Lord and we like to sing. All right? She has suggested some songs, so we're going to sing 3 songs. One of them is an old song, it's an old slave song, Right On King Jesus. And another one is We Have Come This Far by Faith, because through history, black people have always said we've come this far by faith. And then the third one is her book. And if you know the song, it's just one verse. You come in and we'll march off the stage and you don't have to sing it. All right? Right on, King Jesus, no man can hinder me. Right on, King Jesus, no man can hinder me. No man can hinder me. No man can hinder me. Right on, King Jesus. No man can hinder me. Right on, King Jesus. No man can hinder me. No man can hinder me. No man can hinder me. In the breaking of morning, very well, very well. In that breaking of morning, very well, very well. In that breaking of morning, very well, very well. In that breaking
me. No man cannot hinder me. No man cannot hinder me. We have come this far by leaning on the Lord, trusting in His holy word. He's never failed me yet. Can't turn around. We come this far by faith. I will trust in the Lord. I will trust in the Lord. I will trust in the Lord until I die. I will trust in the Lord. I will trust in the Lord. I will trust in the Lord until I die. I'm gonna stay on the battlefield. I'm gonna stay on the battlefield. I'm gonna stay on the battlefield until I die. I'm gonna stay on the battlefield. I'm gonna stay on the battlefield. I'm gonna stay on the battlefield until I die. I'm going to treat everybody right. I'm gonna treat everybody right. I'm gonna treat everybody right until I die.
Okay, now this is one of the oldest pictures of a preacher that I could find, so we'll move on. Reverend Matt McKinney was born and died in Andrews. Next. And Barbara McCray is such a wonderful person. I don't know how many people in here know Barbara, but she is a visionary. She has so many great ideas. And one of her ideas was to work with the Green Street people, where it used to be the Franklin African American community. And that little place is Ray's Chapel AME Zion Church. I know that I'm skipping around a lot with all of this, but with the number of pages that are in the book, it's a little bit hard for me to not skip around a little bit. But Ray's Chapel is in Franklin on Green Street, and this is my uncle who went on to go higher up in the AME Zion Church. He was there in the 40s as the pastor at that little church, and he gave me a lot of great information, as you'll see. His name was Reverend Joseph Keaton, Reverend Dr. Joseph Keaton. Next, and down here you'll see Barbara, and that's okay, that's okay. Preachers, some of the preachers, we can move on, just try to put their names in there and try to talk to them. And then we go into the sports. We have quite a few famous sports people in our region, comparatively, a lot, comparatively. And so these are some from the high school in Andrews. My cousin Keith is the Hall of Famer in Andrews, which is really great. He was a basketball player. And then Leslie, since these young men right here have left Andrews, we're having a hard time winning a lot of games. That's been a long time ago, but we can move on. And you all know these, I have a section in there called the Street of Boys and Faith. And as you know, their mother just passed away, and the only one living now, these two on the side are living now. But their stories are in the book, so I'll let you read those, and we can move on to the next one. And then Carl Pickens is from down there in Murphy. He was an NFL player, and Tommy Love, we know him, we know of him, if not know him. And this man, I don't even know what a 3-point is, but he made that 3-point running card over at Western Carolina University. So there are more, but right now I just put these together to show you pictures so we can have something. Now, we'll have some fun, I guess. Superstition. This is one of the things that is so funny. Ghosts, Hanks, and superstitions are really something from the community that is always interesting to me. And I could tell a long story about a Hank story that I was involved in, but I won't. But the funny thing is that they tell about this man that lived right up the road from us. Now, now everybody has a big light in the backyard or at their house, so it's real light and everything. You can't even see the stars anymore for all the bright lights. But back in the day, there were none. If you didn't take your lantern with you, which only shined, 2 or 3 feet in front of you, you were walking around in the dark. But it happened to be a moonlit night. And this man named James had a little taste. And so he was coming home and he looked around behind him and he saw something, as he called it. I saw something. So he took off running and he ran and he burst through his house door and all the families, what's going on? He was sweaty and panting for breath and everything. And he's like, something's after me. And they were like, what? Well, they didn't want to go to bed and have something out there, right? That could come in on them that night. So they all got together, they got their gun, and they all creeped out there together looking to see what something was. Turns out he was running from his own shadow. Back in the day, Hank stories were really fun. We used to get together, our families would get together, people would just sit around and tell all these Hank stories. And some people don't know what a Hank is, but a ghost, you could say ghost, if you want to, but a Hank is the real name for something like that. And Grandpa, as you can see, these men have their eyes punched out. Back there, the superstition was that if you took somebody's photograph and punched out their eyes, or this was hoodooing, right? Hoodooing. you could cause that to happen to them. That's what they believe. And so someone tried to blind these two men, my grandpa and his cousin. Grandpa decided he was superstitious himself, so he wore this around his leg until he died. That little dime was tied around his ankle until he died. Next. Now, I've got some superstitions here, and you might yell out some yourself, but we don't think about it too much, but salt was a big deal. Salt is, I mean, still people do it, throw salt over their shoulder. I don't think that's all about, but they do. So I'll mention a few of these. A black cat crossing the road, right? You all know about that. Sometimes it made people turn around and go back. I'm not going because a black cat crossed my path. The wishbone, when we ate our chicken, you know, the wishbone, we divide, whoever got the big piece, they had the luck. If you heard a hoot owl in the night, I said, oh no, somebody's gonna die. My grandma used to run to the bed and tie a knot in the corner of the sheet so that she could ward that off, whoever it was. It wasn't gonna come into her household anyway. She had Cherokee heritage, and I heard from the Cherokee that they feel that way about owls hooting as well. If a frog pees on you, you get warts. If a bird gets your hair and puts it in their nest, you can lose your mind. And girls, you couldn't whistle. What does it say? A whistling woman? Say it. That's right. On New Year's Day, there should never be a woman to come to your house first because it's going to bring bad luck to you, is what they used to say. So my dad would go around visiting everybody that he could, so he'd be the first man, so they wouldn't have to worry about it. You shouldn't look people in the eye because they might catch your spirit and destroy it. That's another thing that the Cherokee thought of as well. You shouldn't tell people your name because they might fix, what do they call it, use the numbers and do something to you by using the numbers. If you slept with a New Testament under your pillow, the spirits couldn't bother you, the evil spirits could not bother you. You shouldn't let a man should not have another man rub his head, because if he did, he could hoodoo him that way. And all of his hair would fall out. When I was a kid, there was all the magazines would have ads classified selling rabbit's feet. So everybody had a little rabbit's foot. They put their car keys or their house keys on a rabbit's foot for protection. And then here's a funny thing. There was a thing that a hairy-legged woman, we'll call it love soon, will love you up a storm. So back in the 1960s, my sister Mary Alice put on, she and a friend of hers put on a fashion show at the Civic Center in Asheville. And all these beautiful women were walking across the stage, modeling all these nice clothes and all. But here comes a woman with hairy legs, and the audience went crazy. The men were hooting and yelling and everything because the woman had hairy legs. And I thought, well, I'm shaving mine. So salt again. And the reason I put this picture up here is if someone has done you wrong, you picture the person in your mind, you call out their name, you throw some salt over your right shoulder to get rid of that, whatever it is that they've done. If you think a witch or a hoodoo is coming to your house, you sprinkle some salt across the doorway and the spirits can't come in. Spilling salt is said to be bad luck, as it shows that Da Vinci even believed that, because, as you see, where Judas has turned over the salt container, that little inset is in that picture, so that's been around for a long time. Superstitions or something else. My mother went to a gypsy when she was real young, and gypsy told her Friday the 13th was her lucky day. Therefore, we grew up with no problems with 13. Even on on the 13th, Friday the 13th, Daddy would do something real special for her. We would, we would do something, we'd wash dishes without her having to ask us. Because that was her lucky day, right? We wanted to make sure that was right. New Year's food is another thing. How's my time? Got time to quit? Hey, this time? Okay. So, anyway, we know about New Year's food and all that. You gotta have your hog jaw and your greens and those kinds of things because that brings you the money and brings you the love and all of that. And so I knew that there was gonna be a lot, but here were some things, I think quickly, that we can mention things about the signs. People talk about the signs. If they're in the bowels, you did not make kraut. You didn't do certain things. You had to make sure the sign was right before you did a lot of things with canning and all that. Now, I really wanted Greta to read that poem, but I think we'll do that another time, okay? Because we're running out of time, okay? My sister worked at CP&L in Asheville, and one day, one of her coworkers, a white woman, was crying all day. And my sister said, Mary Alice, said, "What are you crying about? What's wrong?" She got her to the side and she said, "What's the matter?" And she said, "I just lost somebody that was my very best friend as I was growing up, and I'm guilty because I haven't been in touch with her, and I just found out that she died." Her name was Pearl. This white woman had been taken care of by this black woman, which is a story that we all have heard in the past, and it's a good thing. This one is a recitation. Black people used to sit around and recite. My aunt can still do it beautifully at 93 years old. So it's a great thing. So I'm going to read this poem to you, and then we'll sing a song and we'll get out of here. This poem is called Pearl's Little Eve. Go to the country so sweet, and you'll hear a story of love, a story about Pearl's little Eve. They say this day, if you pass the place, you can hear that little Eve, that sweet little girl hollering, "Pearl, oh Pearl." Everybody loved and knew that Pearl. Plump and round and full of joy, skin as dark as night, singing and praying and praising little Eve. With the big eyes and big bright eyes and the skin so bright, Pearl nearly raised little Eve, gave her candy and cakes and most of all her love. When little Eve was sick, nobody knew what was better to do than Pearl. That child was her girl. Through rough times of sickness and so little food, there was always a meal for little Eve. When the winds howled above the old shanty house that was Pearl's, she held little Eve in those big dark arms and would rock and rock. This sweet child is my little Eve. Even though it's been a long time ago, no one has ever forgot the story about Pearl's little Eve. They say one time little Eve was nearly visited by old man Death. Everybody remembers Pearl telling old Death, "You ain't gonna get my baby, not my little Eve." They say old Death turned around, not even he would stand up against Pearl. So every time I go to the country's so sweet, I think of the story of Pearl's little Eve. They say that little Eve visits sometimes and looks at the old shanty house and sits in the old rocking chair and thinks about her Pearl. Deep in her mind she knows, there beyond the sky, within them golden gates, stands Pearl. And in that great getting up morning, there, waiting at the pearly gates, will be Pearl, waiting for her little Eve. Go to the country's so sweet, and you'll hear a story, a love story, a story about Pearl's little Eve. That was written by my sister Mary Alice. And we'll close out with something. The book says music, and the goal was, at one time, to do a CD that would have been in the back of the book. But we'll do it. We're still going to do it. It's just a vision that we need to follow through on. Singing has always been really important in the black church and in our black families. Sometimes we didn't have musical instruments and those kinds of things, but we still sang and we used our instrument that God gave us. So now I want everybody to help sing this song. This is a call and response song. And I didn't get to talk to you about all the things in the church because I know I'm talking way too long, but shouting in the spirit, and all those things happened in the church. And it was a great experience for me in life to know that I had the faith that kept me going, and it's kept me going through these 7 years with the book. And one day, I believe that I'm going to see all who love me will be together and will be loved by God. And that's my opinion. So we're going to sing this song and close out here. It's called Canaan Land. So if you want to, you can stand up. It's a call and response. So when I say a part, I think you all can help this. You know this, right? I'm on my way. I'm on my way to Canaan land. To Canaan land. I'm on my way. I'm on my way to Canaan land. To Canaan land. I'm on my way. I'm on my way to Canaan land. To Canaan land. I'm on my way. Praise God. I'm on my way. If you don't go, if you don't go, I'll journey on. I'll journey on. If you don't go, if you don't go, I'll journey on. I'll journey on. If you don't go, if you don't go, I'll journey on. I'll journey on. I'm on my way. Praise God. I'm on my way. If you don't go, if you don't go, don't you hinder me. Don't you hinder me. If you don't go, if you don't go,